A man is simply a hermit obsessed with online games. However, he accidentally enters the game world as a slave. Surprisingly, someone who was weaker than even the most fragile girls now possesses basic stats that far surpass those of everyone else. Additionally, he has 13 hidden abilities of which he is unaware. It turns out that about 3 months ago, after being abandoned by his 5-year girlfriend, he left his hopeless job in a fit of rage and locked himself in his room to play non-stop, trying to numb his sadness with virtual pleasure. Pangaea is a virtual reality game that revolutionized the market 5 years ago. Initially, its advertisement promised to grant a single wish to anyone who managed to complete the game. The best players watched eagerly, wanting to see if that promise was real. However, 5 years passed without anyone managing to beat it, and the number of players dwindled until only Park Hun-young remained, still online without pause. Most online reviews criticized the game's extreme difficulty. The final bosses are so powerful that they are overwhelming, causing players to doubt whether it's even possible to defeat them. Moreover, the system lacks player versus player combat markings or penalties for infractions, so teammates can betray you to gain benefits. NPCs pursue wanted players, and once these AI-controlled figures turn against you, the character's elimination becomes inevitable. What annoys players the most is that once you're dead, everything is completely erased. The extreme difficulty caused many to give up, gradually losing interest. Park Hun-young has dedicated 5 years to this game, developing countless powerful characters. But now, his avatar, equipped with 8 unique artifacts from different parts of the continent, has reached its end. Nevertheless, this character grants him 160,000 soul points. He had never accumulated more than 80,000 points since he started, and at that moment he receives a monumental amount. That's correct. Although the game erases everything after a character's death, it has a soul point system that converts the value of a defeated character into usable points. These points allow you to add skills and increase basic stats in new characters. With greater benefits, the more points are invested and the faster they grow. His girlfriend's departure made Hyun-meong, normally cautious, decide to take a maximum risk. With each click of the mouse, his new character's stats and abilities kept piling up non-stop, until suddenly, a hidden fragment appeared. System notification. Congratulations. The player has received an invitation to enter Pangaea. Suddenly, a powerful energy manifested around him, and an unfamiliar voice pierced his thoughts. Damn gods! I will burn everything they have created. The intensity of the pain made him feel confused, as if his head was splitting and his vision was blurring. Within moments, he collapsed to the ground, while his computer screen lit up with a fierce red glow. Deep and enigmatic thoughts emerged in his mind, shining like light but darker than the deepest shadows, swirling in a whirlpool of creation and destruction. Only within himself could he find a spark of happiness amid Pangaea. Suddenly, a crack of a whip broke the silence and violently awakened Hun-young. He cursed his captivity but had to get up quickly, as a brutal order reminded him of his condition. If he fell again, he would be handed over to the aquatic dragon's feast. The name Hydro Dragon brought a sudden revelation. At that moment, his eyes fixed on a sea of yellow sand and a ground filled with slaves. An impactful image that shook his mind. Between colossal animals and thick shackles, the slave master's whip lashed his back again, demanding that he rise. Trembling, he managed to stand up and pushed himself into the crowd. After a moment of internal confusion, he realized he had been transported to Pangaea, a world where one of the monsters is precisely the Hydra Dragon. He opened the status window and was surprised to see his statistics. All his basic attributes reached 12, along with several skills and 13 hidden traits. Before investigating further, the ground suddenly trembled violently, causing everyone to turn their heads in a single direction. In the distance, a vast dark army advanced relentlessly towards them. A woman in the group shouted that it was the army of the Desert Queen, about to break the non-aggression treaty and attack. Tension intensified. They had to prepare quickly for battle, or they would die right there. Yong fixed his gaze on the woman riding atop a giant creature, a shock that shook him to his core. She is the Serpent Princess. At that moment, A main quest appeared on the system screen. Rewards would be distributed based on performance, and failure would mean death both in the game and in real life. Only one word remained in his mind: survive. A rain of swords descended upon them, and both slaves and masters quickly fell under the attacks. A drop of blood splashed Huanyong's cheek. In that instant, he activated a hidden trait, the Heart of the Iron Sovereign, a skill that appears only when all his physical talents are at their maximum level. It allows him to ignore fatigue, remain calm in any situation, and adapt quickly to conditions. Just as he is about to raise the long sword left behind by the slaver, an enemy soldier lunges at him with the intent to kill. Without hesitation, Huanyong grabs the sword from the ground. As he does, the blade begins to glow intensely, illuminating the entire scene. With a precise move, the enemy's spear flies toward him and pierces him instantly. The hidden skill of Weapon Master activates, allowing him to master any weapon, even one he is handling for the first time. Huanyong throws the broken tip of the spear, which pierces an opponent's abdomen. However, his talent goes far beyond merely wielding weapons. Regardless of what weapon he possesses, he can accurately anticipate its trajectory, always aiming at its weak point. Huanyong blocks a powerful axe blow head-on and uses that moment to throw his sword. The blade pierces the enemy's chest, and without wasting time, Huanyong retrieves his axe and attacks with a blow aimed at the enemy's head. He is a slave, yes, but possesses extraordinary strength that instills fear in those around him, preventing others from daring to advance. An alert from the system sounds incessantly. Due to a hidden effect of the trait skill, skill with weapons increases rapidly. Swordsmanship prowess has already reached level 6, the same as spear and axe skill. In the game, the maximum level for skill is 10, but he has already reached halfway at level 6. Could this be the effect of those hidden traits? Without them, with his current level, he would undoubtedly be dead, but he still faces a crowd of at least 500 people. Can a single person truly handle such opposition? The Serpent Princess gazes into the distant desert, lost in thought. From her throne, the Desert Queen observes her intently and speaks in a stern tone. The expedition to the demon realm has failed. Is this true, Serpent Princess? After her calm response, the Queen continues. If the fools of the Central Continent knew that our desert city of Fassler did not participate in that mission, they would automatically blame our people. We must prevent this at all costs. Go to Kosman Desert and eliminate every survivor of the defeated expedition. Eradicate everyone who knows that Fassler did not send troops, as well as bring back everything related to it. If you manage to accomplish this task without problems, I will lift your curse. This is your last chance. Do not fail me again. The scene returns to the present. The Serpent Princess asks from her pedestal above the head of the massive beast, "Is it finished?" The answer comes from a man, his voice trembling. There is still a slave resisting. A slave? She is anxious. The ground is covered with debris, severed limbs, and corpses, forming a circle that looks like an impenetrable barrier. But he is soaked with sweat from fatigue. However, the system alert sounds again. Its level rises to second, and her stamina, magic, and fatigue are restored. Just as everyone hesitates, a voice emerges from behind. Back off, everyone. The figure that appears is the Snake Princess, standing atop the head of the giant monster. She has finally arrived. Huanyong seems to anticipate her arrival, Isabella von Dijon. Due to the significant level difference, Huanyong can only see her status and level on the screen. Level 8. A level that clearly cannot be defeated at this moment. In Pangaea, the maximum level is 10, and the threshold for the truly powerful is level 7. From that level onward, true strength amplifies infinitely, making the gap almost impossible to bridge. An 8-level warrior is considered among the strongest anywhere. In summary, only leaders of the most renowned organizations reach this level, so for Haiyang Fei to have such a level would mean total destruction. However, that abnormal state on the Snake Princess's health bar makes her appear to be contemplating something. At that moment, a slender figure swiftly descends from the giant beast's head. Her recent movements were quite impressive, but now she could die at any moment. Seeing the level 8 power advance decisively, Hyunong remains calm, showing not the slightest tension. Just as the sword was about to pierce her chest, she lifts the corner of her mouth and says, "Don't you want to break the queen's curse?" The power of the blade suddenly halts, the tip just a few centimeters from her neck. Isabella, with a stern expression, pulls back her sword with resistance and demands, "Who the hell are you?" Hyunyoung gazes at her intently and responds, "I am a starbreaker, the one who contemplates the stars and guides others toward them. I will help lift the queen's curse and leave this desert," he adds calmly. These words resonate within Isabella, awakening a deep impulse in her. Seeing her like this, Hyunong knows he has achieved his goal. The Starbreaker class is an NPC that, upon reaching level 10, requires guidance to progress into the realm of transcendence. Although Hyung is not a true Starbreaker, to completely dispel the Queen's curse, the celestial blessing only a genuine Starbreaker can bestow is necessary. Isabella longs for freedom, so the promise to eliminate the curse quickly is extremely tempting. The reason Hyunong knows she desperately yearns to escape is simple. Isabella is a character he created during his gameplay. She is an unfortunate character, forgotten due to a poor initial distribution of her stats. The Queen's Curse is a game mechanic that restricts characters to specific areas at the starting maps. However, characters created by players are born with the mission to complete the game and are destined to achieve a certain ending. That is why Isabella has become trapped here by this curse. She asks for your name. With a determined expression, Hyunjeong says, "My name is Randolph." The system alerts indicate the player has entered that name. Both remain silent for a moment until Isabella breaks the silence first. In a firm tone, she warns, "For now, I won't kill you, but if I find out you dare to deceive me, I will tear you apart." Then she orders her subordinate soldiers, "Take good care of him. He is my mercenary, so treat him with the utmost caution." The system issues another notification. The main survival mission has been completed. Calculating the details, they congratulate the player on reaching the highest rating so far, attributing it to initial luck. The constellation of fortune smiles and announces, "Enhanced reward." The constellation of battle, observing, comments, "This is quite impressive." The reward has been improved as well. After this, Randolph collapses. As people in armor slowly fall, he lies in a bathtub, analyzing the rewards received for completing the mission. He did not expect to obtain all at once a set that had only appeared once in 5 years of the game, the Water Dragon's Soul and Michaela's Sword, essential at the beginning. But what interests him most is the fragment of the broken golden rule, along with the mystery of why the system states that reality is synchronizing with Pangaea. At that moment, 3 beautiful young women enter, wrapped in towels, leaving an air of calm and mystery behind them. Smiling, they assure him they will help him bathe. Hyung did not expect the test to arrive so soon. All these women are Isabella's subordinates. If he shows even the slightest reaction, he would be suspected immediately, because Starbreakers do not react to desire, so he must remain completely calm at this moment. However, the next scene surprises him deeply. How is that possible? Grace and Mint Chocolate, both former members of a foreign group called Pangenia, appear together. He thought they had disappeared suddenly because they left the game, but now he doubts. Were they also transported into the game world like him? Furthermore, he notices there is a disconnect or exit system function. Does this mean he can also leave the game? Then Randolph gestures with his hand, indicating that the 3 women should withdraw first. He must communicate with the stars. If he does not do so within the allotted time, he will lose his powers as a Starbreaker. Randolph's statement leaves the young women speechless. Before leaving, he adds that after communion, he will go to see Isabella. He himself is surprised that such a flimsy excuse works. He thought he would be trapped in the game forever, but he didn't expect to be able to leave in that very moment with just the press of a disconnect button. System alert. Disconnecting. Please place your character in a safe location. Returning to reality, he is still sitting in that familiar armchair, dressed in modest clothes, everything exactly the same as before. Hyung rubs his eyes, wondering if he's hallucinating from having spent too much time immersed in video games. At that moment, his gaze falls on the table, where a shining golden disc and a small fabric pouch lie. Hyung reaches out and takes a piece of gold, his heart full of questions. Why does this object appear in his room? Was everything that happened before real? Quickly, he stuffs the objects into his pocket and prepares to search for information about the game on his computer. But he finds that there is no trace of it anywhere. Paina's official website has completely disappeared, as if it vanished into thin air. Then, suddenly, he hears screams coming from outside the window. A giant mantis is wreaking havoc on the streets, moving its sharp legs. Police weapons have no effect on it. They radio for reinforcements trying to stop this giant creature. This scene makes Hyun tremble with fear. Why has this happened? Why are monsters from Pangenia appearing in his real world? In utter desperation, the golden fragment he just put in his pocket falls to the ground. Hearing the cries for help and the girl's screams outside, Hyung doesn't know what to do. His fingers brush the fragment, and suddenly it reminds him of something. If the monsters from the game can appear in reality, then the objects he obtained in the game might also be usable in the real world. When he opens the small fabric pouch, Michaela's accessory and the water dragon's soul float upward. Seeing this, Hyung gasps in surprise. He tries to grab one of the water dragon's souls, but receives no reaction. However, he remembers that the broken gold fragment might sync reality with Pangya. As he lifts the circular fragment, a goddess dressed in white appears behind him. A system alert indicates that the player is syncing with their character. The synchronization completes, and a reminder appears on the screen. Broken golden rule fragment, with 24 hours remaining. The streets are already filled with corpses, and a mother is desperately running with her son in her arms. However, unexpectedly, several enormous stones fall from the sky at this critical moment. Part 7 of 21. The mother, in a moment of desperation, throws her son before being crushed by the giant stone falling atop her. This draws the attention of a nearby woman, who rushes anxiously to ask if she's okay. The mother can barely respond that she is, and she asks the woman to first take care of her son. The woman quickly assesses the situation and, in the end, can only offer an apology. "I'm very sorry. I swear I will protect your son," she thinks to herself. But at that moment, seeming to sense something, she turns her head and discovers a giant mantis appearing right behind her. The beast, with its fierce jaws, lunges toward her, and the woman feels an unimaginable revulsion. Am I really going to die like this? She wonders, uneasy. Suddenly, a figure with a sword decapitates the monstrous mantis with a precise strike. Randolph's eyes shine with blue light, and effortlessly, he rends the beast into pieces. The woman opens her eyes, relieved, believing she has survived and is still alive. But who is this man now accompanying her? Just then, another monstrous mantis lunges at Randolph. She screams to alert him, but he does not move. Then, behind him, with a thundering roar, a multi-headed dragon bites the enemy mantis. The woman breathes a sigh of relief, though an inexplicable confusion overtakes her. What is happening here? Just then, a multi-headed dragon creature appears behind Randolph. He lifts his foot and drives it forcefully onto one of the dragon's heads. The woman, stunned, watches that scene as if it were a 3D movie, doubting whether all this is a dream. Suddenly, the girl in his arms breaks free and runs toward her mother. While someone fights the creatures, she has stopped fleeing and is trying to help them. Randolph swings his sword, causing jets of blood and destruction. The enormous mantis falls powerless, torn apart by the attack of the 9-headed dragon. The monster invasion is not limited to South Korea. Creatures emerge worldwide, destroying civilizations and slaughtering innocents without mercy. Besides these beings, warriors in armor and swords appear, possessing superhuman powers. They can easily eliminate monsters, something that simple weapons cannot do. This phenomenon seems to mark a new era. In a room of a building, a man watches news on his phone about monster invasions and the appearance of warriors. He mutters to himself, What a bunch of fools wasting fragments of the broken golden rule like this. Referring to one of the main players of Pangenia, known as the Butcher. If Pangenia and reality finally merged into one, everyone would become rivals, and those who managed to obtain the most fragments of the golden rule would undoubtedly be the protagonists of this age. But a recent event caught his attention. The ranking, which had remained unchanged for an entire 2 years, suddenly updated and, with an absurd score of 220 points, reached first place. Could that guy Randolph be the same Spectre? The so-called Spectre or Ghost? No one knows his real name. Rumors say he possesses hundreds of characters in the game and has assembled an expedition force in the Demon Realm, consisting of NPCs. He was the first person to almost complete the game, but for unknown reasons the expedition ultimately failed. However, he is still regarded as the top expert in Pangenia. When a powerful character dies, they remain in a place to be summoned again. After the expedition's failure, Randolph was likely summoned to Pangenia. Although the entry changes his appearance and resets his equipment, he can inherit abilities from previous characters. That's why someone at his level must be that Spectre. At that moment, Randolph also begins to reflect. The monsters appearing in reality, as well as the summoned players, retain their Pangenia appearances. This sequence of events leads him to understand something fundamental. He nearly completed the expedition in the Demon Realm with his strongest character. From a certain point, the difficulty in Pangenia skyrocketed. NPCs who were allies before suddenly turned hostile, blocking his progress with unpredictable methods. If all these enemies were controlled by summoned players like him, then someone was definitely watching him. The border between reality and Pangenia has disappeared. He can't simply hide by disconnecting. To protect both sides, he must become stronger as soon as possible. Isabella watches as Randolph opens the door and asks, "Have you finished communicating with the stars?" Randolph responds, "I came here to fulfill my agreement with you, but I have one condition. Take me to the sanctuary." Although Isabella exclaims, asking if he's crazy, she inwardly knows that if the main mission was to survive, the second would be to obtain a class. That's why she must head to that place. The star is there. It's the only option. That's what Randolph confides to Isabella. Under the moonlight, the remains and severed limbs cover the path behind them. She simply extends her hand and wipes the blood off her dagger. Seeing this, Randolph cannot help but feel a glimmer of relief. Defeating the guards in a matter of minutes and having that ally is truly comforting. A few hours ago, when he told Isabella like that, she exclaimed that he must be crazy. But he insisted, "The star is there. In fact, it has been hidden. But if I manage to find that star, I will be able to lift its curse." Although Isabella insists that the sanctuary is not a place anyone can visit, Randolph tells her that this is her last chance. Isabella had no choice but to make a commitment, and silently, they both descended a staircase leading into the earth. Suddenly, an alert sounded in the system. The player had entered a hidden map, a sanctuary in the middle of the desert. The reward would depend on their progress in exploration, but it was warned that their current level was below the recommended for that area, and it contained toxic gas and demonic energy. Insufficient magical resistance would be lethal, but the hidden giant's magic resistance ability had been activated, making her immune to poison gas and dark energy. Her main mission too was to acquire a class, which could be obtained in the sanctuary and would be rewarded according to her rank. Randolph smiled slightly, knowing that this place was the key to obtaining that class. A bottomless abyss stretched out before them. Isabella fell silent, observing the scene carefully. After closing her eyes and meditating for a few moments, she tried to convey that Randolph was heading in the wrong direction and prepared to turn back, but he stopped her with a hand. Seeing her, he warned that this bridge was a trap, and that as soon as she stepped on it, she would be pulled by an invisible force. It was clear she understood the danger, but she denied his words, feeling somewhat nervous. Then Randolph knelt down on the ground, right there where they were, and suggested, "Come on, get on my back." Isabella's face flushed as she tried to refuse the idea, but Randolph explained that there was no time, because if the queen discovered the guards were dead, she would send troops after her. Weighing her options, She agreed to hop onto his back, ensuring that if her legs weren't numb, she would never have allowed that help. The next moment, the direction Randolph took was completely different from what she had expected, causing her to scream in doubt whether they were going the wrong way. Without hesitation, Randolph jumped into the bottomless abyss before their eyes. Suddenly, a special skill called sudden mutation was activated, allowing him to see things that ordinary humans could not perceive. Randolph seemed very familiar with this place and skillfully avoided traps and hidden paths, leaving Isabella even more confused. How could he know so much, even more than she did, the second in command of Pisamo? At that moment, Randolph broke the silence and said, "Who would have thought that Pisamo's second would be afraid of heights?" The statement gave Isabella a strange sensation, as if there had been a long shared history between them. "Did we know each other before?" she asked. He responded calmly, "No, we haven't met in the same space." She frowned, confused, and added that she didn't understand what he meant. He then explained, "It means I can see you, but you can't see me." And, facing her doubts, he added that somehow she was seeing him, but he was not seeing her. Suddenly, they appeared in a garden. If his memory served him correctly, he knew what the next step in the plan was. But at that moment, a violent shake jarred the surrounding hills, giving the sensation that something was about to explode. The earth trembled intensely, and in the blink of an eye, 3 colossal golems emerged from the ground, with runes glowing on their chests, emitting a blinding light. Randolph assessed these stone creatures, aware that at his level, a single blow would be fatal. Just as the golems began to advance violently, the story paused at a moment of intense tension. Isabella placed both hands behind her hips and smiled confidently. In an instant, the rocky form of the golem disintegrated into a web of cracks that quickly spread. With a thunderous explosion, it shattered into 1,000 pieces, scattering fragments in all directions. She rolled her head slowly and uttered a few words in a calm tone. "It will be over soon." Without wasting time, she jumped, using the shower of debris as steps to propel herself upward. Her small figure effortlessly passed through the body of the enormous golem. Seeing this, Randolph nodded with satisfaction, recognizing it as a demonstration of the legendary self-proclaimed automatic combat. Isabella needs no instructions from Hyun to effortlessly destroy stone golems. What still poses a challenge for Hunyong is simple for her. After destroying all the golems, a system window appeared in front of Randolph. It informed him that the player had obtained the Golem Creator class. Outside Pangenia, classes that allow summoning creatures to fight are extremely rare. Although Golem Creator is exceptionally scarce, it is not the one he's looking for. Therefore, he dismisses it without hesitation, since someone is capable of helping him obtain the desired class. At that moment, a black miasma filled the air, signaling the arrival of an even more imposing figure about to emerge. An alert sounded from the system. The ancient king, lord of the mountains that bury the nameless star, has become enraged by the intrusion. Randolph seems to have foreseen this situation. It is Gramuda, the guardian titan, an ancient entity breathing fury and power. The warning sounded again, indicating that the player's level is far below the recommended. The oppressive feeling now is completely different from anything experienced in the game. Just as Isabella thinks Randolph expects her to help him face this monster, he asks her not to worry. She claims that, although she may appear fierce, she is actually very gentle. Before she can finish speaking, the ancient king launches a direct attack against her. The surprise completely catches her off guard, and he strikes her on the ground with a heavy blow to the back. This makes Randolph feel somewhat uncomfortable, missing the friendly attitude he remembered from the old king. Suddenly, the ancient king speaks. "O shrine challenger, come and weaken me to prove your worth." Then, a tail strikes out violently toward Isabella, threatening that those who cannot prove their right will sleep here forever. Randolph recalls that, during his previous intervention, no such situation had occurred. Had something happened at that moment? Suddenly, he remembers that King Gramuda, protector of the stars and a colossal titan, gained intelligence after the stars influenced her. When he managed to pass that test, he used William, a transcendental at level 10 with 5 stars. He recalls that, when William arrived at the sanctuary, Gramuda was already in a docile state and led him to the star. William should have already met the conditions that Gramuda mentioned. In short, King Gramuda attacks and eliminates those he considers weaker. Back then, William was much stronger, which is why he could face him. Under a strike from his serpent tail, Isabella hurriedly retreats, falling heavily to the ground. The miasma of the sanctuary hampers her movements, leaving her slow and uncoordinated, unable to react quickly. Perhaps it was a mistake from the very beginning. She was deceived by that starbreaker and impulsively entered that dangerous place. At that critical moment, Randolph shouts with determination, "Stop, Gramuda!" The figure of the old king halts abruptly in the air, suspended. His serpent-shaped eyes turn toward Randolph. "How do you know my real name?" Randolph asks firmly. "It is me, your master William, who has returned." However, upon seeing Randolph's current weakness, Gramuda looks at him with absolute disdain. "You say you are William?" He retorts, laughing. "Weak human. Do you even know what you're saying? William is a man of true strength, worthy of serving as my master, though he failed in the expedition to the demon realm. He is not someone an insignificant like you can mention." The serpent's jaw suddenly opens, and a chilling laugh echoes through the air. "Weak human? Do you really think you know what you're talking about? William possesses genuine power, worthy of respect, even though he failed to complete the mission in the demon realm. It's not a name you can just mention." The terrifying jaw lunges furiously at Randolph, who, without showing fear, remains calm and says, "Let's respect our oath, Gramuda." The serpent's mouth freezes the moment it hears those words. "An insignificant insect," he responds. "How do you know about the oath? That should be an absolute secret, known by very few, but that only bound the old William." The current Randolph is not affected by this at all. So, the giant creature asks who he really is. At that moment, Randolph does not expect him to believe he is William. "If you want to know who I am, guide me yourself. The star will verify it." Gramute's eyes flicker with disdain. "You don't even deserve to stand before the star. Although I know that at this moment your strength is weak, I speak with determination. What's wrong? Are you afraid I will actually get the star and prove that I am your master?" Gramuda, amused, lets out a sarcastic laugh. "You are so fragile that I could crush you with a single bite. However, I can accompany you to the star. I don't believe you are William, but since I don't like the idea of someone who knows our oath being eliminated easily, I'll leave it to the star to deal with you." Moments later, Isabella observes the scene with total disbelief, extremely frightened. "The star is here," Randolph affirms confidently. "Exactly. What lies on the altar is the star. To be precise, it is Rhea's skull. On the continent of Pangenia, stars refer to fragments of the body of the twin goddess Rhea. In total, there are 32 pieces scattered across the continent. Players consider them the foundation for accessing the realm of the Transcendentals. The star remains in Randolph's hands for a few moments before igniting in blazing flames, engulfing him completely. Horrified, Isabella shouts, asking if Randolph is okay. Gramuda watches everything with a mocking smile on his lips. "I told you, someone like you will only be consumed by fire if they approach the star." What he doesn't know is that, inside the flames, Randolph clearly hears every word. "Damn bastard." In reality, there is only one way for the star to kill the players, using a mistake to evade Gramuda and take the star directly. However, he did not overlook anything. The true question now is whether he will succeed in obtaining the class he seeks. In theory, claiming a star without a class should activate that specific awakening. But he has never actually done it. He only heard something about it. At this moment, Randolph seems to hear an inner voice. Words like emptiness, skilled hands, omnipotent master, giant magic resistance, affinity with druidic nature, weapon master, glutton, heart of the iron sovereign, beast lord, golden grace, mutation, great sage, and destiny. When the voice disappears, the skull transforms, releasing a wave of power that merges into his body. System notification. The player's energy has been converted into Star Force. He gained the active skill Stellar Claw level 1 and the passive skill Stellar Blessing level 1. The star grants him an increase to all his stats, +5. The more stars an heir has, the stronger they become. Stellar enhancement never disappears. The class has been unlocked. Stellar Heir. From afar, Isabella is paralyzed by such a display. At that moment, Randolph speaks. Isabella, if your curse disappears, what would you like to do? She responds with a slight blush. Leave the desert and reunite with my family. Then Randolph adds with authority. I will grant you the star blessing to leave the desert, but there is one condition. You must work for me for a year, after which I will grant you your freedom and help you find your people. Those words remind her of her former servitude to the queen. Just as her mind wavers, Randolph's hand rests on her shoulder. I am not the queen and I will not deceive you, he says. That familiar warmth makes her blush again. She clenches her teeth, as if making a final decision. I will follow your lead. Isabella kneels on one knee before Randolph. He, satisfied with her response, thinks it was a wise and bold choice. Didn't you say that the Master of Stars was your master? The voice of that ancient king, once arrogant, now trembles slightly. System notification. Main mission 2 completed. Class acquired. Successful. Total score, 230. The player's name will be inscribed in the Hall of Heroes. The constellation of luck favors you even more. The rewards for the mission have increased significantly. Several constellations from the Hall of 100 Stars have begun to watch you. At that moment, in a coffee shop in the real world, two identical men sip coffee in whispers. Without a doubt, Randolph is the Spectre. The first mission may have been a coincidence, but the second impossible to ignore. 5 years have passed and the Spectre has finally appeared. The situation becomes even more interesting. Will we find him first? The woman shrugs. How? We've searched for years without finding him, right? The twin doubts and responds. Because he wasn't a real player before. Now that he has entered the game, we're sure we can locate him. Maybe we should try our luck. The secret auction should already be open. In player slang, trying luck means putting high-stat equipment up for bid in the covert auction and using a doubler rune to track and locate the buyer. Some inexperienced newcomers, attracted by the low prices of certain gear, end up being pursued or even killed because of it. The strategy is effective because to reach first place in the third main mission, a powerful team is needed. But the Spectre is the walking encyclopedia of the game. Without a doubt, he knows the effect of doubler runes and will not fall into the trap. However, the woman shakes her head. If the Spectre is indeed him, he might have deliberately taken the bait. Although that expedition failed, his determination is truly admirable. He is not an ordinary man. Perhaps, upon discovering the trap, he still decides to get involved and eliminate his rivals one by one. That is the Spectre I know. Then we will take him captive, or better yet, invite him to join our guild. At that moment, a system window appears in a dark corner. You have also failed the main quest. Class acquisition ranking. Special rewards have been revoked, and access to the covert auction has been denied. The butcher watches the sudden system notification with a frown. Randolph, with only a few thousand points, what class could he have to be in that position? For now, he cannot participate in the covert auction, but that doesn't matter because rankings can change. He only needs to kill someone in the ranking to return to it. System notification. Side quest. Searched the sanctuary completed. Rewards are being distributed. At that moment, Randolph hears the system awarding him rewards as he rides at full speed in Gramuda. The march has been easier than expected, which he takes advantage of to leave and explore at the same time, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Just then, the serpent's head in Gramuda turns. It detects the presence of the Queen's guards and alerts them. Master, the invaders have reached the sanctuary. Isabella deduces that they must be the Queen's forces and asks what Randolph's plans are. Although the Queen will not appear in person, the number of invaders is considerable. Even with the Guardian present, They likely won't hold out for long. Randolph responds completely calm. Why fight alongside us with the Guardian here? His words finally make her understand what he means. Suddenly, both use the shadow cloak they obtained as a reward to disappear quickly, leaving Gramuda utterly stunned. After moving a bit away from the sanctuary, Isabella asks him, "Are we really going to get out alive?" Randolph explains that if the Queen is not inside, everything should be fine. It's impossible for all her pursuers to enter the sanctuary. At most, only the advanced group. If we get trapped and the main force arrives, escaping will be impossible. The best option is to be pursued relentlessly, so it's better to leave the place as soon as possible. Besides, the Guardian cannot leave the sanctuary, so we must run. To leave, they need to use the teleportation gate at the edge of the desert, although Isabella's curse has already been lifted. The biggest obstacle is that activating that gate takes time. Isabella looks at the gate in front of her with disbelief. Is it through here? Randolph confirms firmly. We only need to pass through this area to leave the desert, but the door takes some time to activate, approximately half a day. As you can see, there's no safe place to hide here. Even though the advanced troops are heading toward the sanctuary, they will eventually discover us. Although he is aware of the importance of the mission, he doesn't know what might happen in the real world, so he has no choice but to disconnect. He then explains to Isabel that during this time he needs to communicate with a star, and upon seeing this, she unhesitatingly takes a small knife she carries at her waist. "Let me handle this," she says. "Protect yourself and wait." Meanwhile, in reality, his ex-girlfriend, who decided to end their relationship and keeps him as a backup, suddenly remembers her courage. To her, Park Han-young is ineffective and weak, but he stands out for his obedience. After being discarded by her new, wealthy boyfriend, she thinks of her old backup, Park Hyun. Hyun, confused, asks her, "Suddenly you wanted to see me? What's going on?" COULDN makes a gesture for him to calm down and sit first, perhaps because it's been a long time since they last saw each other. She can't help but notice how different Hyun now appears. He asks her to get to the point. COULDN presses her lips, recognizing how much he has changed. However, one thing has not changed. Before, whenever he called her, she would respond immediately. And even now, that remains the reason she likes him. After ending things with her, he realized how much he valued her good attitude. He has missed her all this time. "Have you been well? Have you missed me?" he asks hopefully. But Hyun remains silent for a moment, then gets up. "I've finished talking. I'm leaving," he says, preparing to go. Seeing him about to leave, COULDN panics. "Wait, didn't you hear what I told you?" she asks. "I said I miss you," Hyun replies coldly. "Are you still angry about what happened when we broke up?" Hearing this, Hyun turns around with a somber expression. "Ju-young, does your boyfriend know you came to see me today? Did you just remember to delete your friends? Next time, also erase yourself from your social media," he adds. Without waiting any longer, he turns and leaves. Hyun would have been too shy to speak like that before, but now he seems completely calm. Maybe Randolph's influence has changed him. At that moment, a woman's scream captures his attention. "If you keep following me, I'll call the police," she says. A man grabs her by the hair and pulls out a knife from his pocket. "What are you all looking at, idiots? Have you never seen a fight?" The attacker shouts. "And you, woman, dare to disrespect me? I will kill you." Just as the blade approaches, Hyun yanks the attacker's wrist away. The woman, already resigned to her fate, opens an eye when she hears the sound. Hyun clenches the attacker's wrist tightly, telling him not to cross the line, and the force causes him to scream in pain. Without using the broken gold rule fragment, he feels that his current strength is enough to break the man's wrist. Then, he throws him aside and approaches the woman to ensure she is okay. The woman, grateful to be alive, cannot find the words to thank him. Han-young closely observes her face and suddenly remembers that this is the same person he rescued last time when he used the fragment. It's no surprise that she seems familiar. At that very moment, The man who had fallen to the ground manages to regain his composure and lunges at him with a utility knife in hand, heading straight for him. Maintaining his composure, Han-yong quickly dodges the attack and, extending his right hand, strikes the man forcefully, rendering him unconscious. Shortly thereafter, the police load the attacker into their vehicle, while preparations are made to transfer Hyun and the injured to the station. Noticing this, Kim Hana steps forward to protect Hyun, but the officers insist on taking him to get his statement. Although Hyun prefers not to lose time on it, the officers insist it is their duty. At that moment, Hana shows her press credentials and hands them to the police. She says, "I am Kim Hana, a television reporter. There is no need to detain him. I am a witness. Talk to me." Upon hearing her, the officers are momentarily paralyzed, aware that if this news spreads, they could get into trouble. Just then, the people around them begin to comment among themselves. "Isn't she the woman from the social media post who rescued a child from monsters? She even appeared on TV, right? Her name is Kim Hana too, isn't it?" The officers realize they should not confront Hana and step back. Before leaving, she thanks Han-yong with a smile and hands him her business card. "I am a journalist specializing in dimensional warriors." This confuses Han-yong, who asks what exactly that entails. She explains, "Dimensional warriors are unknown people who appear and defeat monsters during a dimensional invasion. Everyone calls them that, dimensional warriors." The idea of an invasion from another dimension seems more logical to him than the theory of the world merging with a video game. Then, Hana asks for his card, and at that moment, one enthusiastically pulls on his arm, clinging to the same idea that she is his girlfriend. But Han-yong surprisingly pushes her away and says he has no card. After giving her one, Hana comments that if he ever has time, he could invite her for coffee or dinner. "This is my invitation." Meanwhile, Seo Yen, watching everything from the side, feels a deep rage upon seeing both ignoring his presence. Soon after, Hana receives a call. On the other end, her superior informs her that she has been assigned an important interview that must be sent immediately. Hana is left puzzled. Why would she need to interview Grayson, the hero who saved a country and is considered an icon? However, her boss only tells her that the hero wishes to see her and that he will come in person. Meanwhile, in Pangenia, in front of Randolph, lies a terrain covered in debris, where all Pasamo's pursuers have been trapped. But this scene has completely exhausted Isabella's stamina. She can no longer hold on. Observing the scene, the responsible party intervenes. As long as the Serpent Princess hands over the enslaved woman she's carrying behind her and returns to the Queen, Her Majesty will consider this incident as if it never happened. However, Isabella has no intention of yielding and remains steadfast in front of Randolph. The pursuers of Pismo fall silent and advance with the intent to eliminate both of them. At that critical moment, a brilliant blue light radiates from the stone gates. The teleportation door activates, and at that very moment, Randolph appears beside Isabella. "Thank you, Isabella," he says. The exhausted woman asks if he has finished with his communion with the star. Hyung nods in response. Randolph extends his hand, and as a sign that he is fulfilling his part of the deal, offers her his hand. When his palm closes, countless streaks of starlight burst from his fist. A notification is activated. The player has used the exclusive skill of the Star Air, Star Whip, consuming all the energy of the stars. This skill lasts for 41 seconds. The powerful starlight envelopes all the soldiers, and at its peak intensity, their bodies begin to turn to ashes. Now, Isabella understands the true power of the Starbreaker. Watching the teleportation portal, her face lights up with emotion and anticipation. Randolph turns and says to her, "If you wish to regret now, there's still time." She smiles with pursed lips, without hesitation. Without doubt, she follows him through the teleportation door into the golden city of Arcana. This city is a place where wealth rules everything. Without millions in capital, anyone is invisible. As Isabella marvels at the opulence of this city, Randolph reminds her, "This place is called the City of Gold. Here, even obtaining something as simple as daily goods requires gold." Upon hearing this, Isabella pulls out a small cloth bag. If it's just gold, it's no problem, she murmurs. I brought 300 of these. Seeing her confident expression, Randolph looks at her seriously and discourages her. With that amount, you'll only have enough for food and lodging for one night. These words surprise Isabella, because in the desert, those 300 gold would be enough to buy 10 slaves. Randolph explains that the Sman Desert is considered a peripheral zone, and she is struggling to understand the situation. Pointing to a nearby building with a smile, he comments, "Why worry? There's an ATM over there." Isabella looks and sees a huge casino, surprised by its size and grandeur. For a moment, she is frozen in place. Randolph, however, confidently states, "No need to worry. I'm lucky. In this golden city, the only rule that matters is that money decides everything." The heart of wealth in the city of gold is the famous Casino Hudson. A guard at the entrance blocks their way with a monotone tone. "Sorry, sir. People with less than 10,000 gold saved cannot enter." The news surprises Isabella. She approaches Randolph, asking why he hadn't mentioned this saving requirement earlier. Now, after changing clothes, she has only 100 gold left. At that moment, the guard reminds them of the rule again, making it clear how difficult it will be to access without the required amount. If you have no savings, please do not hinder other guests. Before the man can finish, Randolph pulls out an object and places it in front of him. "I have no reserves, but I offer this as a pledge, and with this object, it should be enough." The gem before their eyes causes his body to tremble with excitement. Without wasting time, he bows politely and offers to accompany him to the VIP lounge. When Isabella asks what he has handed over, Randolph responds that it is just a talisman, the tear of the Fairy Queen. It is one of the prizes he won during his visit to the sanctuary. On the market, it is worth at least 1 million gold coins. These figures further bewilder Isabella, who asks how he can part with something so valuable so calmly. Randolph looks at her calmly and says, "No problem. As long as I win, it will be returned anyway." As the wheel continues turning, small white balls keep coming out, provoking surprise among the crowd. Who is that guy? He has won again. This is madness. Has he become a betting legend? He started with only 250 gold, and now has surpassed 1,400,000. The reason Randolph can be so confident in winning lies entirely in his trait of golden grace. At that moment, the man who had previously politely invited Randolph speaks with trembling body. "Sir, we can let you keep all your winnings, but please, do not come back to the Hudson Casino in the future." It turns out that since they entered, all the players who bet alongside Randolph have left empty-handed. If this continues, the casino will surely collapse. Under the stern gaze of those present, the man continues, "Therefore, sir, we kindly ask you to leave now." A flicker of murderous intent emanates from Isabella, but Randolph simply raises his hand. "In that case, I will leave. But first, I want to speak with your boss." Initially, the man wants to refuse and have Randolph leave quietly, but they tell him that this is not just a request to speak, and that the boss will certainly want to see him. At that moment, a man silently observes the shining gem in front of him. Then he extends his hand and uses his 8th-level skill, called the Observer's Hand. Thanks to this skill, he analyzes the gem and confirms that it is undoubtedly genuine. But he is intrigued to know who in that category of the Queen of the Fairies might possess an object that only fairy knights carry. It should be clarified that finding a fairy knight is already extremely difficult, as killing one requires at least 3 level 10 or higher warriors, making it very hard to obtain that object. He has searched the market for years without success, never imagining that today it would appear at his doorstep. At that moment, a knock on the door interrupts his thoughts. "Mr. Hudson, the person who left the amulet as collateral wants to see you and insists that he truly wishes to do so," they say. Randolph sits at the tea table while Isabella remains standing beside him. Hudson keeps his eyes fixed on the person in front of him. After a moment of pondering over the holder of the Queen of the Fairies tear, he says, "I've heard you want to see me. What does that mean?" Randolph asks as he lifts his teacup, making it clear that there is no double meaning, just a literal interpretation. Surely you want to see me because you need the amulet I left, right? The words fall silent, and Hudson feels a violent shiver inside him. It seems he has heard rumors about my exhaustive search for that rare amulet. Yes, indeed, I want to acquire the Queen of the Fairies star. Randolph confesses without hesitation. As long as the price is fair, I have no objection to selling it. Surprised, Hudson fixates his gaze on him and directly states the amount. 2 million gold coins. What do you think? Randolph asks in a reassuring tone. I think this figure is very generous. Isabella, observing from the side, is stunned by these words. However, Randolph surprises her even more by stating a significantly higher figure. 20 million gold coins, he says calmly. Hearing this, Hudson does not immediately refuse but comments that this sum is equivalent to purchasing a large mansion in Central Arcana. No matter how rare the Queen of the Fairy Star is, it's just an amulet to enhance weapons. Do you really think it's worth that much? He asks with disbelief. I can't pay that amount for a personal collection piece. But Randolph continues, and his hand holding the cup begins to tremble. If it were only a collectible item, it certainly wouldn't cost so much. But the Queen of the Fairy Star is not just an amulet. It is also the key to quietly entering the city council. To enter, you need to reach level 10, he explains. But here's the catch, you must do so on your own. For someone who doesn't fight, that's nearly impossible. That's where the Fairy Queen's star comes into play. The amulet removes the level requirements for equipment, allowing you to use high-level gear to compensate for your combat stats. Then Randolph reveals an important secret. The real reason a simple casino owner wishes to join the council is to gain the approval of your fiancé's family, Serenity. The so-called Serengeti is the only daughter of the Duke of Deterrence in the Kingdom of Balan. She is known as the Knight of Pure White, commanding 500 horses, and was also a companion on the expedition to the demon world alongside her father. Moreover, she was the brave assistant who saved him from the Demon King at the cost of her own legs. Initially, he thought Sereneti's actions were just prescripted events in a game world, since everything happened in Pangenia, the digital universe. However, after William's death, he suddenly found himself in that same game world, merged with reality. This phenomenon made him realize that some NPCs might also be real players. It reminded him of the words Serenity had spoken before. If I can't return from this expedition, please take this for me, Captain. She had asked him back then, handing him a necklace. When he received it, he wondered what it was. He only understood its meaning when a system notification appeared. It was a valuable necklace with a picture of Serenity and her fiancé, Hudson, embedded in it. Then he wondered if that story was part of Serenity's past, if that other life she seemed to be living was real. In her original narrative, Serenity had no fiancé, but in this universe, with preset rules and cross-events, unexpectedly, a story of love and sacrifice was added that hadn't existed before. At that moment, Hudson must behave as a truly integrated person in this world, like a player who has been absorbed into its reality. To his surprise, he admits he has never told anyone about a revelation he had, and he asks Randolph how he discovered that information. Knowing that Randolph likely arrived in this world after him, the latter's interest is to gather as much data as possible to understand the situation of other players and the peculiarities of this environment. Therefore, he extends his hand to the sky and assures him that he was unaware of this reality, that he only heard of it from the stars. Hudson's expression instantly turns skeptical and questions whether he now intends to act as a prophet. At that moment, Randolph speaks calmly and convincingly. He doesn't want anyone to believe him, but he can help him achieve his desires without money. All he asks is that you accept one simple condition. You must tell the story of your life to the stars, and after hearing it, they will decide whether to offer you their help. However, the entire story must be truthful, as the stars only favor those who are sincere. Hudson falls silent for a moment at these words. In reality, Randolph knows that the other man might be wondering if he himself is an undercover hunter, because revealing personal details in this environment can be extremely dangerous. Hunters are non-player characters who specifically hunt players, accusing them of being sinners and mercilessly executing them. Many players have fallen into their hands. Investigations into them almost always fail, which makes extreme caution necessary. In Pangaea, sharing personal data is tantamount to signing a death sentence. That is why most players hide their identities. Randolph has no intention of exposing himself, but he is convinced that Hudson will accept. For Hudson, Serengeti is not just another person but someone he considers vital to his destiny. Looking at the pendant in the shape of a medallion, Hudson finally decides to tell Randolph his story. He knows that he must start with Serengeti because everything he is searching for, everything he's trying to achieve, is linked to her. Serengeti is a brave rider who participated in the expedition to the Demon Realm, led by the 8 heroes. Upon hearing this, Randolph is stunned. The 8 heroes, he repeats mentally. What is he talking about? Wasn't William the leader of that mission? Hudson first apologizes for the confusion and clarifies. William is very famous, but in reality, the expedition was a joint effort by the 8 heroes. As everyone knows, the mission failed due to internal conflicts among them, a fact that leaves Randolph puzzled. He asks anxiously, "Internal conflicts? What exactly does that mean?" Then he inquires who these 8 heroes are. Hudson appears uncomfortable and responds that they are all legendary figures. One of them is said to be the strongest after William, second in power and prestige.